The howl pierced the night like a blade through flesh. I froze, my flashlight beam trembling across the stone wall before me. That wasn't the wind. That wasn't a dog. That sound carried something ancient and hungry within its notes, something that shouldn't exist outside of folklore and nightmares. I'd been in this god-forsaken watchtower for only 2 hours, and already I was questioning every life decision that had led me to this moment. The radio crackled. I fumbled for it, desperate for another human voice. "James, you there? Over." The static-laced voice of my supervisor barely cut through. "I'm here," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Frank, there's something out there. I heard..." Another howl erupted, closer this time. The radio hissed and went dead. "Frank? Frank?" I shouted uselessly into the device. "Nothing. My name is James Harker, 43, and I never believed in monsters until tonight. I'm a forest ranger by profession, but a desperate man by circumstance. When they offered triple pay for an overnight shift at the old Blackwood Watchtower, deep in the National Forest, I couldn't refuse. My ex-wife's medical bills hadn't disappeared with her cancer, and my daughter's college tuition wasn't going to pay itself. "Just keep an eye out for forest fires," they said. "Radio in if you see anything suspicious," they said. They didn't mention the legends. They didn't warn me about what happens here during a full moon. A heavy thud against the wooden door at the base of the tower sent me scrambling backward. My back hit the circular stone wall of the watchtower's uppermost level. Thud. There it was again. Something was trying to get in. The tower had stood for over a century, a relic from when forest fires were spotted by human eyes rather than satellites and drones. Built from thick stone at its base with wooden upper levels, it rose like a lonely sentinel above the ancient forest. The observation deck where I now stood was enclosed with large windows offering a 360-degree view of endless trees stretching toward the mountains. During the day, it might have been beautiful. At night, with clouds occasionally obscuring the full moon, and with something inhuman trying to break down the door, it was a prison. Crack. The sound of splintering wood echoed up the spiral staircase. I grabbed the hunting rifle they'd given me, just in case of bears, and pointed it toward the stairwell entrance. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The breaking sound stopped. An eerie silence fell, more terrifying than the noise. Then came the sound of heavy footsteps on the wooden stairs, slow and deliberate. Whatever was coming up wasn't in a hurry. It knew I had nowhere to run. "Hello?" I called out stupidly, as if some lost hiker might respond. "The park is closed. This area is restricted." A low growl was the only response, sending ice through my veins. The footsteps continued their methodical ascent. I aimed the rifle at the stairwell entrance, finger trembling on the trigger. What emerged from the darkness wasn't a bear, wasn't a wolf, wasn't anything I'd seen in my 20 years as a forest ranger. It stood upright like a man, but that's where any resemblance to humanity ended. Covered in thick, dark fur, it had the head of a wolf with eyes that glowed amber in the dim light. Its shoulders were massive, arms longer than they should be, ending in hands, not paws, with curved, yellowed claws. But it was the mouth that fixed my attention, open in what could almost be called a smile, revealing rows of teeth designed for one purpose: tearing flesh. I fired without thinking. The shot deafened me in the enclosed space. The creature jerked backward with the impact. I'd hit it in the shoulder, but instead of falling, it looked down at the wound, then back at me. A thick, rumbling sound emerged from its throat that chilled me more than the howl had. It was laughing. Before I could chamber another round, it lunged. The rifle was torn from my grasp and sent clattering across the floor. Claws raked across my chest, shredding my jacket and the skin beneath. The pain was immediate and searing. I stumbled backward, crashing into the desk where the logbook and radio sat. I grabbed the heavy metal flashlight, my only weapon now, and swung it desperately. By some miracle, I connected with the creature's snout. It recoiled, snarling in pain or rage, probably both. That moment was all I needed. I scrambled past it toward the stairwell, taking the steps 3 at a time, nearly falling in my haste. I had nowhere to go but down. The creature's growls pursued me, along with the sound of heavy footfalls. I burst out the broken door at the base of the tower into the moonlit forest. Blood soaked my shirt from the claw wounds, but adrenaline kept me moving, kept the pain at bay. The forest paths I knew so well in daylight were alien territory now. Branches whipped at my face as I ran blindly. The creature's howl behind me told me it had exited the tower. The hunt was on. I ran until my lungs burned, until the metallic taste of blood filled my mouth. When I could run no more, I ducked behind a massive fallen log, trying to silence my desperate gasping. The forest had gone quiet. No insects chirping, no nightbirds calling, just the sound of my thundering heart and ragged breathing. Then a twig snapped nearby. "I can smell your fear, James." The voice, if you could call it that, was guttural, like stones being ground together. But the words were clear. It knew my name. "How?" I whispered before I could stop myself. A dark chuckle from somewhere to my left. "The radio. Your friend Frank was quite talkative before I silenced him." Frank. Oh God, Frank. The realization that I wasn't its first victim tonight made me gag. "What are you?" I managed to ask, playing for time, desperately trying to think of a way out. "You know what I am." The voice moved, circling around. "You Rangers ignore the warnings, pretend we don't exist. But the old-timers know. They built this tower with silver in the mortar to keep us at bay. But the silver has faded and the barrier has weakened." My mind raced through local legends I dismissed as campfire stories. Werewolves were said to haunt these woods. The older rangers wouldn't take shifts during full moons. I'd laughed it off. I wasn't laughing now. "You're bleeding, James. Makes it easy to track you." The creature stepped into a shaft of moonlight 10 feet away. Standing upright, it must have been 7 feet tall. Its chest and arms were massive with corded muscle visible beneath the fur. The bullet wound on its shoulder had already stopped bleeding. It dropped to all fours, a position that should have looked awkward, but instead seemed terrifyingly natural, like it was revealing its true self. "Run!" it growled. "It's more fun that way." I ran, not toward the ranger station. I couldn't lead this thing toward other people, but deeper into the forest, toward the river. If I could cross it, maybe I could lose the scent trail. The sound of pursuit was close behind. The creature wasn't using its full speed. It was toying with me. Branches and undergrowth tore at my clothes. I stumbled over roots and rocks, but somehow kept my footing. The sound of rushing water reached my ears. The river was close. I burst through the tree line onto the rocky bank. The water was high and fast from recent rains, at least 30 feet across and churning white in the moonlight. Without hesitation, I plunged in. The cold hit me like a physical blow, nearly stealing my breath. The current grabbed me immediately, pulling me downstream. I fought to keep my head above water, kicking toward the opposite bank. From the shore I'd left, a frustrated howl rose into the night. I looked back to see the werewolf pacing along the bank, reluctant to enter the rushing water. I'd found a weakness, didn't like water. My relief was short-lived as the current pulled me faster, slamming me into hidden rocks. Pain exploded in my side, ribs cracked or broken. I gasped, took in water, choked and sputtered. Ahead, the sound of the river changed, a deeper roar growing louder. Horror dawned as I realized what was coming. The waterfall. I fought the current with renewed desperation, trying to reach either bank. My fingers scraped rock and roots but couldn't find purchase. The roar grew deafening, and then I was falling. The drop wasn't as far as I'd feared, perhaps 15 feet, but the impact drove the air from my lungs. I was pushed deep under the churning water at the base of the falls. Disoriented, lungs burning, I kicked and clawed toward what I hoped was the surface. My head broke water, and I gulped air frantically. The current was gentler here. I managed to drag myself onto a muddy bank, coughing water, shivering violently. I lay there for minutes, just breathing, assessing the damage. Claw wounds across my chest, painful but not life-threatening, at least one broken rib. Various cuts and bruises, but I was alive. For how long, though? I looked up at the top of the falls, no sign of the creature. Had I escaped? I didn't believe it. Somehow I knew this wasn't over. Rising painfully to my feet, I tried to orient myself. The ranger station was miles away, across the river and through dense forest. My radio was gone, lost in the tower or during my flight. No one would come looking for me until morning. I had to find shelter, somewhere defensible, somewhere with silver. An idea struck me, the old mining camp. It was less than a mile downstream from here. Abandoned decades ago, it might have tools I could use as weapons. And where there were old mines, there might be silver. Keeping close to the river, my one defense against the creature's tracking, I limped downstream. Every breath brought stabbing pain from my broken rib. The claw wounds on my chest had stopped bleeding, but throbbed in time with my heartbeat. The mining camp emerged from the darkness like a ghost town. A dozen small cabins in various states of decay surrounded a larger building that must have been a mess hall or office. Equipment rusted in the moonlight. Ore carts, picks, shovels. The mine entrance was a black hole in the hillside, partially collapsed. I approached the largest building first. The door hung from one hinge. Inside, moonlight filtered through holes in the roof, illuminating broken furniture and debris. I searched frantically for anything useful. An old kerosene lamp still had fuel. I lit it with shaking hands, grateful for its warm glow after hours in the darkness. A distant howl froze me in place. It had found my trail. Panic threatened to overwhelm me. I forced it down. Think, James. Think. The howl came again, closer. I didn't have much time. In a back office, I found what I was looking for, a display case. Smashing it open, I found old photographs, documents, and a silver letter opener. I grabbed it, then noticed something else. A revolver in a desk drawer. 6 bullets in a box beside it. I loaded it with trembling fingers, hoping the ancient ammunition would still fire. The silver letter opener was barely a weapon, maybe 8 inches long, but it was all I had that might actually harm the creature. Another howl, much closer. It was in the camp now. I extinguished the lamp and moved to a window. In the moonlight, I saw it, stalking between cabins, nose to the ground, following my scent. It paused, raised its head, and looked directly at my building. Even from this distance, I could see its mouth pull back in that terrible semblance of a smile. I had moments, not minutes. There was a hatch in the ceiling, access to the roof. I pulled myself up, gasping at the pain in my ribs. The roof was pitched but navigable. I crawled to the highest point and waited, revolver in one hand, silver letter opener in the other. The crash from below told me it had entered the building. Heavy footsteps moved through the rooms, a frustrated growl when it found them empty, then silence. I held my breath, straining to hear. Nothing. A massive form exploded through the roof 3 feet away from me, sending wooden shingles flying. The werewolf landed on the roof with impossible grace, its amber eyes gleaming with predatory intelligence. Clever, it growled, but futile. I fired the revolver. The shot hit it in the chest. It staggered back a step but didn't fall. I fired again and again, 3 hits. Blood darkened its fur, but its eyes only grew more enraged. "My turn!" it snarled and lunged. I rolled aside, nearly sliding off the roof. Its claws tore through the spot where I'd been. I scrambled backward, firing again. Click. The 5th bullet was a dud. 1 bullet left. The werewolf advanced slowly now, savoring the moment. "I'm going to enjoy this, James. You've given me the best hunt I've had in years." I waited until it was within arm's reach. It raised a clawed hand for the killing blow. I fired the last bullet directly into its open mouth. The creature reeled backward, howling in pain. Dark blood poured from its jaws, but still, it didn't fall. "You'll pay for that," it gurgled through its ruined mouth. As it leaped toward me, I thrust upward with the silver letter opener, driving it deep into the creature's throat. This time, the effect was immediate and dramatic. A high-pitched scream erupted from the werewolf. Not animal, not human, but something in between. Steam or smoke rose from the wound as if the silver burned it from within. It clawed at its throat, trying to remove the improvised weapon. I took my chance and rolled off the roof, landing hard on the ground below. Pain exploded through my injured side. Darkness threatened to overcome my vision. I fought to stay conscious, dragging myself to my feet. The werewolf thrashed on the roof, its movements becoming weaker. Hope flared that I might have delivered a fatal wound. That hope died as it pulled the silver letter opener from its throat with a terrible, wet sound. It turned its gaze on me, hatred burning in those amber eyes. I ran for the mine entrance. It was my only chance. The tunnels might be too confined for the massive creature to follow easily. And if local legends held any truth, the mine might contain more silver. The entrance was partially collapsed, forcing me to squeeze through a narrow opening. Inside, the darkness was absolute. I stumbled forward, hands outstretched, moving deeper into the cool dampness of the mine shaft. Behind me, I heard the creature land heavily on the ground outside the mine. A furious roar echoed off the stone walls. The sound of debris being cleared told me it was coming in after me. I moved faster, ignoring the pain shooting through my body. The tunnel branched. I took the right fork, moving downward. Water dripped somewhere ahead. The air grew colder. The darkness was disorienting. I couldn't tell how far I'd gone or how deep I was. The sound of pursuit had faded, but that didn't mean I was safe. My foot hit something that clattered metallically. I bent down, feeling blindly. A mining tool, a pickaxe. I clutched it gratefully, moving on with slightly more confidence. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber. Faint moonlight filtered through a shaft in the ceiling, illuminating what had once been an active mining operation. Ore carts sat abandoned on rusted tracks. Tools lay scattered where they'd been dropped decades ago when the mine was abandoned. In the dim light, something glinted on the far wall. I approached slowly, hardly daring to hope. A vein of ore ran through the rock, and embedded within it, threads of what appeared to be silver. A rumbling growl from the tunnel entrance destroyed my moment of discovery. The werewolf stood there, hunched to fit in the confined space. Blood still dripped from its throat wound, but its eyes were clear and focused. The silver had hurt it, but not killed it. "Nowhere left to run," it said, voice raspy from its injury. I raised the pickaxe, backing toward the silver vein. "Why are you doing this? Why me?" It tilted its head, almost curious. "Nothing personal, just nature. My nature. To hunt. To feed." It took a step closer. "Though I admit, you've made it interesting. Most don't last this long." "The others? How many?" A wet sound that might have been a chuckle. "Over the years, dozens, hikers, rangers, anyone foolish enough to enter these woods during a full moon." It gestured at the mine around us. "Some I brought here afterward. Less noticeable than bodies in the forest." Horror washed over me as I realized what it meant. I glanced around with new eyes. In the shadows, I could make out shapes I'd overlooked. Bones. Human bones, scattered and broken. The werewolf sensed my realization. "You'll join them soon. But first, I think I'll make you scream a while." It moved with frightening speed despite its injuries. I swung the pickaxe in a wide arc, catching it across the muzzle. It reeled back, more surprised than hurt. I pressed the advantage, swinging again, driving it back toward the tunnel. But the third swing went wide. The werewolf caught the handle, wrenching it from my grasp with inhuman strength. The tool clattered away into darkness. A massive paw shot out, catching me across the face. I sprawled backward, tasting blood. Before I could rise, it was on me, pinning me to the ground. Its weight was crushing, driving the breath from my lungs. Claws dug into my shoulders, holding me immobile. Its jaws opened wide above my face, saliva dripping onto my cheek. The stench of blood and decay washed over me. "Any last words, James?" It growled. In that moment, something changed within me. Fear gave way to fury. If I was going to die, I wouldn't do it begging for mercy. "Yeah," I spat. "You talk too much." I drove my knee upward with all my remaining strength, catching it in what I hoped was a vulnerable spot. It wasn't much, but the creature flinched, its grip loosening fractionally. That fraction was all I needed. I rolled sideways, breaking free from under its weight. My hand closed around a fist-sized rock. I brought it down on the werewolf's injured throat with all my might. The creature howled in pain, clawing at the reopened wound. I scrambled away, eyes darting frantically for another weapon. The silver vein gleamed in the faint light. I lunged toward it, clawing at the stone with bloodied fingers. A piece broke free, a jagged shard of rock with threads of silver running through it. The werewolf recovered quickly, advancing on me with renewed rage. "I'm going to tear you apart slowly for that," it snarled. I backed away, the silver-laced rock clutched like a dagger. "Come on then," I challenged, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. It charged. I sidestepped at the last moment, driving my makeshift weapon into its side. The effect was immediate. Where the silver touched, fur and flesh sizzled and burned. The werewolf's howl of pain echoed deafeningly in the chamber. I kept moving, trying to maintain distance. The creature clawed at the stone embedded in its side but couldn't dislodge it. Smoke rose from the wound, filling the chamber with an acrid smell. Its movements became erratic, less coordinated. The silver was having an effect beyond just pain. It seemed to be weakening it somehow. Hope flared that I might actually survive this nightmare. I searched for another piece of silver-laced ore, finding a smaller fragment that I clutched in my fist. The werewolf gathered itself for another charge. This time, I wasn't quick enough. It caught me with a glancing blow that sent me spinning into the wall. Pain exploded through my already battered body. I slid to the ground, dazed. Through blurred vision, I saw it coming for me, moving more slowly now, but still lethal. Its amber eyes burned with hatred and something else. Fear. It knew the silver was killing it. As it reached for me, I drove my second silver fragment into its chest with every ounce of remaining strength. The creature screamed, a sound that started as a howl but ended in an almost human cry of agony. It staggered backward, clawing frantically at its chest. Where the silver touched, its fur and skin blackened and peeled away, revealing something underneath that made my stomach lurch. Human flesh. The transformation was horrific to witness. Fur receded, bones cracked and reshaped. The elongated muzzle shortened, becoming a human face contorted in agony. Within minutes, where the monster had stood, a naked man now knelt, gasping for breath. He looked up at me with human eyes, brown, not amber, filled with pain and something that might have been relief. "Thank you," he whispered. I stared in shock. "What?" 50 years, he said, voice raw. 50 years I've been trapped in that thing, unable to die, unable to stop the killing. Blood bubbled from his lips. The silver, it's freeing me. I approached cautiously, still clutching another fragment of silver ore. "Who are you?" "Martin Blackwood. I was a ranger here in 1973. He coughed wetly. "Got bit, tried to end it, but couldn't. Every full moon after that." The name struck a chord. The Watchtower, Blackwood Watchtower, named after a ranger who had disappeared decades ago, presumed dead in a forest fire. "The others," I said. "The people you killed." Shame crossed his all-too-human features. I couldn't stop it. I tried, chained myself up, locked myself away. It always got free. He looked at the silver protruding from his chest. "No one ever fought back with silver before? They didn't know." His body convulsed. More blood spilled from his mouth. "It's still in me," he gasped. "Not completely gone. If the silver comes out before sunrise, it'll come back." "When is sunrise?" I asked. "Hours away." His eyes found mine, suddenly clear and urgent. "You have to make sure I don't change back. Promise me." I understood what he was asking. Despite everything, I felt a surge of pity for the man trapped within the monster. 50 years of that existence would be a hell beyond imagining. "I promise," I said. He nodded, relief washing over his features. "There's a journal in the Watchtower, hidden compartment under the desk. Explains everything. Others should know about the silver, about how to fight them." "Them? There are more?" Terror flashed across his face. "Yes, not many, but enough. They hunt these forests every full moon." His voice weakened. "The journal tells how to find them, how to end them." His body spasmed again, more violently. I saw fur beginning to sprout on his arms. "It's coming back," he gasped. "The silver, not enough." I grabbed another piece of silver-laden ore, larger than the others. Martin saw it and nodded. "Do it," he whispered. "Please." I won't describe what happened next. Some mercies shouldn't be detailed. But I kept my promise to Martin Blackwood, a man who had suffered 50 years of a curse not of his making. When it was done, I sat in the mine chamber until the first light of dawn filtered through the shaft above. The body before me was fully human now, the curse broken by death. I gathered strength to leave the mine, to make my way back to the watchtower. I had to find that journal. Others needed to know what lurked in these forests. The walk back was a blur of pain and exhaustion. The forest in daylight seemed innocent, benign, hiding the horrors that emerged at night. The watchtower stood as I'd left it, door broken, signs of struggle visible. Inside, I found Frank's body at the base of the stairs. I paused to close his eyes, murmuring an apology for the warning I hadn't heeded. In the observation deck, I found the hidden compartment Martin had mentioned. The journal was old, the leather binding cracked and worn. Inside, in faded ink, was the account of Martin Blackwood, how he'd been attacked while on patrol, how he'd discovered what he'd become, how he'd tried and failed to end his own life. More importantly, it contained information about others like him, their hunting territories, their weaknesses. Silver was fatal to them, but only in sufficient quantities. Water confused their sense of smell. They could be tracked during the day when they reverted to human form. The last page contained a plea for forgiveness and a warning. They walk among us, wearing human faces by day. Trust no one during a full moon. I reported Frank's death as an animal attack. I claimed to have fallen into the river while fleeing from the same animal, explaining my injuries. They found Martin's remains in the mine, but I said nothing about his identity or what had really happened. Who would believe me? But I kept the journal, and I started carrying silver, a knife, bullets for my service weapon. I requested permanent assignment to the watchtower, despite what happened there. Or perhaps because of it, because I know what's out there now. I know that when the moon is full, monsters emerge from human skin to hunt in these forests, and I know how to fight them. Martin Blackwood suffered for 50 years before finding peace. The least I can do is ensure his knowledge doesn't die with him. The least I can do is protect others from experiencing the terror of that night. So I watch from the tower, I patrol the forests, and when the moon is full, I hunt the hunters. But sometimes in my dreams, I still hear that howl piercing the night. And I wake wondering if a scratch or bite so small, I didn't notice it might have passed the curse to me. If one day when the moon is full, I'll feel my own bones breaking and reshaping, my own humanity slipping away, and I keep a silver bullet in my pocket, just in case.